Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to be doing like a podcast style discussion about some future units coming from the Japanese server. And to join me in this video is another player that plays both heavily on the global and the Japanese server. It's Deus. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Deus.
What's up?
That works. Yeah, Deus does lots of videos for all three of the servers, actually, global, the JP server, and the Chinese server. So I'll be linking his Twitch and his YouTube in the description below, so you can check that out if you want to see more later. But for now, in this video, we're going to be talking about this future stuff from the JP server, and some things to look out for. What are some units that might be better than other units coming from the JP? This is not like a should you pull guide. This is more of like, what are some interesting units and maybe good units you might want to pull for. So maybe it kind of is like a should you pull guide, but always make your own decisions on what you should pull for. So real quick, we're going to talk about one of the Season 4 units due to relatively soon is Tybus. But before we start, I'm going to show you a quick schedule based on the JP server. Now again, a disclaimer that Global sometimes completely changes banner orders, but based on the JP server, this is the order these units came out. So as you can see, we're skipping kind of straight to Typhus. So we're almost like bypassing the entire month of July from JP server, which was Final Fantasy X and some seasonal units. What do you think about these units, Deuce? Are these like anything really worth talking about? You want to say anything about Yuna, Riku, Auron, or what do you think about them?
There's a Riku coming out.
I know you were like excited by Riku, and she did not meet expectations, unfortunately. Yeah,
Yuna, there's a lot of people hyped about Yuna. I just want to mention very quickly that she really isn't really worth the hype, in my opinion, because one, she's really hard to gear. Two, her damage is okay, but it's like, are you going to invest in her when you can just save for something better?
I do agree. I think Yuna would be great as a regular unit. The fact that she's a premium unit, at least from the JP server, is I don't quite feel she lives up to the expectation of premium like Sephiroth and Tifa, and then the other future premiums. She's just not on that same level. So hopefully Global either buffs her or lowers her price. But, assuming it comes right from JP without any changes, yeah, I would kind of agree. She's a little expensive for the power level she brings.
Auron's alright. I mean, he's just basically Win Sephiroth, except SLB, so you're going to have to spend a lot to get him to EX3, and I don't know if I recommend that either. Unless there's some whales in the chat, maybe you'd like to go for Auron because he could cap some stages, but he's really, really expensive. I don't know.
That's true. That's a perfect description of Win Sephiroth. Because, Auron is super limit burst instead of Brave Shift, but he is almost identical to Sephiroth in that really all that matters is his LB. It's the same modifier. The only difference is it's a shifted element. It's wind instead of dark. He does the katana and parallel same stuff. Like, he is very similar to Sephiroth, very similar damage levels. I think Auron does like 3% more or something just because he has more flat attack. But it's still very, very similar. So if you skipped Sephiroth, maybe it's worth considering Auron if you already have him. They are different elements, but their units are very, very similar. And how about Shoreline Physalis and Coastal Frisia? Do you think these are anything special, Deuce? Just as a quick mention.
I would just skip.
Yeah. Shoreline Physalis is a mage, a water mage. It's very similar to Pause in that it's like just an underpowered mage and doesn't have that premium power level. And she's not premium unit, and she definitely feels that way because she's just not, super impressive. And then Coastal Frisia is like a wind support. She's good at what she does, good STMR, but it's just not really, setting any records as far as support goes.
The one benefit of Coastal Frisia is that she does have 300% limit burst damage in her SLB.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, just like I think she's the second unit after Roka to have that, which is really good for some fights. That's a very good point. There you go. But then Tybus is the one that we're going to be talking about for the moment. Tybus is, again, a SLB unit, very similar to Auron, very similar to Sephiroth as far as playstyle goes. He's another premium unit. His element of choice is fire. He is locked to fire, I should say. But he's AoE, which I should mention, and he is SLB. But he's AoE, and for dark visions, this is not super big deal. But the fact that he's AoE has mattered a few times in boss rushes and JP. Do you have Tybus on JP, Deus?
I do.
So what do you think about him? I actually don't. I did just get him recently, but I've never used him. He's still EX0 for me. So go ahead and talk about Typhus for a little bit.
Go look at his TMR ability real quick.
Oh, you mean the STMR, maybe?
No, TMR ability.
Oh, okay.
That unlock.
No, the TMR ability. Gotcha. Where is that?
I see that it gives some auto cast at the start of the turn, but you really don't need it unless you're doing a turn 1 finish because it's just not that amazing. So you could go without his TMR or STMR because he I want to be honest, guys, he probably is one of the hardest units to build in the entire game based on a lot of factors, including needing his STMR if you want maximum damage. His killers are horrible. His single burst damage is horrible. He needs Cloud's STMR. Well, on the global side, you could use the Crown. The Crown would help him out a little bit. He still requires a lot to build, guys.
Okay.
So his TMR is pretty decent. It gives him some flat attack. Not much, but it does give him some. Machine Killer really isn't needed for pretty much anything that exists in the game. Unless there's some Clash of Wills boss that comes out, maybe. His Vision card is really good. And the reason for it speaking that because it's a premium Vision card.
And just to mention about a Vision card, unlike Sephiroth's and Orange where it's series locked and there's only 2 or 3 units that can really benefit, this one is actually for Brave Exvius male units. There's only male units, but the 500 flat attack works for every Brave Exvius male unit DPS. Now that I say that, I'm realizing in my head that a lot of the Brave Exvius top DPSs are actually females, like Sky and stuff. Are there even any meta male Brave Exvius DPSs at the moment? Physicals? None are coming to mind. I could be overlooking one. Oh,
no, not really.
Carton, it'd be kind of good for, I guess.
Yeah, it'd be all right.
Is he even a male in his shift form? I know that beast races have usually the other gender tag. I don't actually know if he's tagged as a male in his shift form, which is, it sounds strange, but like Nappy and all of them are not tagged as a gender. So Carton may not. I don't know. That's something to look up later.
Another thing I would recommend is looking at his STMR there. Yes, it says it's not available until turn 4, but I think it's a month later, maybe 2 months, maybe less, that they... In the store, this is free. This is a free upgrade. As long as you have it, it gets upgraded to 1 turn, available on turn 1. So I've been doing that in my videos. It's quite good. It's a lot better than turn 4.
Mm-hmm. And I should mention, this again can go on any physical attacker. Now, this physical attacker right here, for people that aren't aware, this is a thing that JP added about a few months ago. But if you look at the roll on units, you see this little sword. This means physical attacker. The little down arrow means debuffer, etc. As long as the unit has the physical attacker roll, they can use this STMR. So you cannot use this on Olivera or something, but any physical attacker can use this STMR and boost their base modifier of the LB by 30x. Which can be kind of nice, and it does double dip on units with a multi LB. For example, Sky would get 60x from this because her LB is 2 individual hits. So
now I don't know much about. I don't have Sky, so would that be good on her? Would you put that on her?
You definitely would for Clash of Wills. Actually, her LB is always the best DPS. So yes, that would absolutely be worth a slot on her, assuming you could fit it. But I think this would even outperform a killer materia if you weren't capped on killers, because 60x on her LB. Then again, now that I'm thinking about it, her LB is 750x in Clash of Wills because of the morale scale and the numbers are so high. It actually might not be worth it if you're trading a killer. That's a better question for people that do math. I don't know. But it is good in some scenarios, especially if you have free open materia slots. Absolutely worth going there. So Tybus is a unit that, he's very similar to Sephiroth and Auron, not really, jumping up with their numbers, but his STMR is the big reason we wanted to mention him, because that STMR is good on almost every physical limit burst damage dealer, because that can be shared. Now I'm going to show you a DPS spreadsheet real quick. Before I want to show it, I want to just quickly mention that on September 10th in the Japanese server, or approximately 2 months ago, they updated the physical variance formula for everything in the game. So people, may know that low attack power weapons get a damage penalty, high attack power weapons get more damage because of the fixed dice thing, and then all weapons have like a variance, like great swords or like bad variants, so to speak. Well, JP updated this and changed it to where, for the most part, two-handers were streamlined. They're all either 1.5 or 1.55 variants now. So units like Typhus and Sephiroth and Auron, after this patch, they get a really big damage boost because they were all using like two-handed katanas and greatswords, which are 1.3 variants on global. In JP, they're now 1.5 variants. So it's a huge damage game. So this is a spreadsheet that people are probably familiar with. It's a popular spreadsheet. On the global side, it's using the global variants. For this video, I have manually updated the variants of all units. It took a while, but I did it. So these numbers you're looking at are using the updated variants from JP. So you might notice some very big position changes, like Sephiroth, Auron, etc. have increased damage a lot compared to where they were on the global version of this sheet. So here we go with Tybus. Where is he exactly? He's right here. So with updated variants of greatswords having 1.5 variants, he's around the second highest burster on. Now this spreadsheet wasn't updated after the first, so the Knights of Grand Shelt are not on this sheet. Neither is Renoa, but this is where Tybus would land with updated variants that is coming soon to global and a streamlined support kit. So what do you think, Deuce? He's pretty close to Sephiroth and Auron, like we mentioned. He's only like 5% higher than that, but it's still pretty high. So is this like is he worth the premium tag? Would you say?
I would say so. I just wish that his killers were more interesting. Like Machine really isn't needed. Like you don't really see machines very much at all, and like he requires, like I just said earlier, he requires a lot. It's like a puzzle. You gotta put everything in the right place in order to make him work. And a lot of the time, it's taking me like 30 minutes to build him correctly.
Oh geez. Okay, so that was the main thing we wanted to talk about with Typhus. And you might notice right under Typhus is Graph, which is the next unit we're going to talk about. Now, looking at the schedule, we'll see, or the JP schedule, that again, global does sometimes change. So we had like the Final Fantasy V banner with Lena, Dorgan, and Galuf, or Galuf, however you want to say. How do you say this guy's name, Deuce? Galuf, you say the same as me. Good, I got it right.
Yeah.
And then Turian came out. Turian was like a Earth Axe support unit. He's decent. I wouldn't really call him out as being like a must-have or anything, but he's a decent unit. And then we had the Xenogears collaboration. And then that Global's gotten Vision World from Legend of Mana. It seems very likely we're going to be getting some other Vision Worlds probably. So we're probably getting this collaboration, I would expect, on Global at some point. So there's 3 units on the 3 units from the collaboration. It's Id and Graph for Neo Vision's base, and then Faye got an Awakening, the old unit Faye that we do have on Global. So before we get into it real quick, I'll just ask Deuce, did you actually play Xenogears, the original game?
Yeah, I've got one. I got a playthrough going on my channel right now.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So I will say this frustrated me about this banner. The fact that it turns out Graph is way stronger than Id. I think that is so backwards the way it should be.
Doesn't make any sense.
Id is like the Omega meta god tier unit from Xenogears, and then Graph was strong in Xenogears too, but he wasn't on Id's level, and unfortunately, if we can pop back over to the spreadsheet, we'll see that Graph is up here, and then Id, like, Id's not bad or anything, but he is a lot weaker than Graph, unfortunately, and he is just very forgettable. But Graph
Id literally destroys an entire floating city by himself.
Id does.
In the story, yeah, that's what I said, yeah. He destroys it by himself.
Mm-hmm. And then He's just not as good in the game. But maybe global fixes that. We'll see. But Graf is a weird unit. He is a unit that when he brave shifts into his gear form, which uses like unique mechanics. He doesn't use weapons, armor, or helmets. He is basically naked. As a trade-off for this, you do get materia and accessories though for like killers and all. As a trade-off for this, you get 1,000 stacking attack power passively while unarmed. So these guys get really high attack power in their gear form. So you want to go ahead and explain like the way he works, Deus?
So basically, since your attack percentage and your unarmed percentage are completely different, they're separated. So that's why you can see, if you are playing the JB version, you can see Grafs having like 10,000 plus attack because they're not stacking with each other. So it's really interesting. And so the rotation you would normally have with him is you use 5 on turn 1. You use in his base form. You use 5 of his abilities, 2 of which will imbue him with water and earth. But you use the ability called Beast Rage Roar or something like that, and you dispel him so that you keep the modifier buffs for several turns, but then you get rid of the imbues. And then on turn 2, you'd go ahead and shift over and use his cooldown. Unfortunately, it's locked to EX2, but you can not have that if you don't need it. And then on turn 3, you use that mega huge cooldown there. It's basically, if you've used Crown Prince Noctis or you used Regina or any of those kind of units, it's kind of the same thing where he has a big explosion at the end there.
Mm-hmm. And if you look at the numbers here, you'll see it looks kind of small. 50x, 50 defense ignore 3 times. You're like, oh, it's only a 300 times modifier. But the thing is, all those modifiers stack. So you've got 25 that are long duration modifiers, like Deus mentioned. You do these, and these imbue him. If this is element you want, it's fine. If not, you can dispel the imbues and keep this. But these stack with these modifiers, and in grand total, it turns this to a 500x modifier with 50 defense ignore. That turns it to 1,000, and it's 3 times. So it's a 3,000 times modifier attack. And just to give a quick comparison, if you divide that by 7 to compare it to like a limit burst damage dealer at max buffs and all, it's approximately equivalent to a 420x base limit burst. Now there are some catches to this. Like I said, they fight with no weapons, meaning no variance. It's a 1.0 variance. Also, that means no weapon in perils. Even though they're technically unarmed, that does not count as a fist. So no weapon in perils at all. So, the 428 effectively comparison limit burst, it sounds really high, and it is, and they are very, very strong. But there are some slight downsides which kind of bring their DPS back. But then the enormous attack power boosted up again. So with all this said, this is approximately where he lands for burst damage, like the third best before the Renoa and Knightsbane. I kind of wish this had the Renoa and the Knights of Grand Shelt on this spreadsheet, but it doesn't. Also,
on top of that, he's also not restricted to a certain element, so you can bring him to pretty much anything you'd like, unlike other units like Tybus or Sephiroth or any of those other element locked units.
That is an excellent point. The fact that he's non-elemental and flexible is a huge deal. That is not so common on the JP server. Global, most units these days are, but on JP, almost everyone good is elementally locked. So the fact that he can go to any element is a huge deal, and it's great. Also, we should mention real quick, a unit that doesn't get a lot of respect for her time magic is Roka, because for the most part, Roka's cooldown reductions don't really matter. Graf is the big exception. Being able to use Roka to let you spam this ability back to back to back. And I think if you set it up right, you can do it 3 turns in a row with her cooldowns and then her SLB, if I'm right. It's a huge burst. I think you actually used this Deus to kill the Stroper Troll really quickly, didn't you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Roka helps Graf's cooldown addiction.
It's very nice for doing it for the few trials coming up, or EX battles, boss rushes, etc. It's very, very cool. So Graf, overall, good burster, the biggest perk being non-elemental. Also, the fact that he doesn't use like weapons and gear can be a bonus because it means there's more of your gear to go for your other units instead. So it's nice.
His last highlight is his STMR is top notch. If you are a dolphin or anyone that pulls, going to be pulling for this banner, if you get multiple of them, don't fuse. Get more of his STMRs. I think I got 3 of them.
Completely forgot about that. Yeah, it is a 60 attack power hat with 50 LB damage and 100% fill rate. It is by far the best LB damage hat in the game. Really nice. And the Clash of Wills hat would usually be better, but there's only one of those. There is technically infinite of these. So, very nice hat. The next unit we were going to mention was the one that came literally directly after this, was Kayn. We had the FF4 banner with Rydia and Kayn. And some global players may be wondering, like, why is Barbarisha in the Neovision's Awakening? You want to explain, like, how that works between JP, Deuce?
So, for those of you who do not follow the JP version, Conte is actually the 5-star on the JP version, and Barbarisha is the 4-star. So there may be some problems with that going forward, and I've been talking to some players, and it might be a bit confusing for this banner, I think.
Mm-hmm. Now, for us, Barbarisha is a 5-star base, so they're probably, if I had to guess, going to just make Barbarisha Neovision's Awakening. They're going to adjust her kit to try to streamline it close to what JP has. The bigger question is Rubicon. Like, how are they going to do it? You know, we skipped Xyle, and that was kind of like a big drama. Everyone got upset about skipping that. They put a producer's letter out saying they're going to fix that in the future. So, do you think we're going to get our 4-star Rubicon upgraded Neovision's Awakening, or how do you think Global's good? What is your prediction, Deuce?
I really hope they do, because he's quite good. He's actually quite strong for Mage. So if you don't have a lot of Mages, guys, and if they do make Rubicon Neovision Awakening, he has a huge modifier in his Brave Shift form.
Mm-hmm. He's pretty good. But back to Kayn. So Kayn is the Dragoon, the new Dragoon. You know, we haven't had one since Noctis and Arden. I guess technically Sky was, but let's be honest here, no one really uses her for a jump. We use her for our LB. But Dragoon Kayn is the Neovision's base Dragoon, and he is really strong. So his modifier on his jump, both his shift and his base form, he's actually a Dragoon in both forms. His jump modifier is baseline 100x. It gets boosted by 100 with his cooldown, and it gets boosted by another 30 by his Chronicle weapon. So it's a 230x jump modifier. What do you think about Kayn, Deuce?
We should mention really quickly that it's the Helmless Kayn's STMR. It's not free, guys. So if you have 4 Helmless Kayns, go ahead and get that.
Yeah, it's similar to like Noctis and Arden that are using the old 5-star STMR from the Chronicle. Yeah, this is the same concept. It's the old 5-star Kayn. His spear is a Chronicle weapon. And Kayn came out right alongside the variance change that we mentioned before, where all the variants got updated. They also made another change to variants about a week after that. If I had to guess, it's probably going to come at the same time on Global. That's how they usually do these things. But they changed variants on jumps. Now, for 5 years, Dragoons were just always dual-wield because of the mechanics of the game. Well, with the Kayn banner, they made a change to how double-handed Dragoon variants works. Anytime you jump while a Dragoon on JP, anytime you jump while a Dragoon is single wielding, the variance is fixed between 2.4 to 2.6 variance, so effectively 2.5 variance average. That means, assuming that your unit supports double hand, there's not much reason to go dual wield on Dragoons anymore, because double hand finally deals double damage while double handing. So that's a great change.
And believe me, trying to make this guy dual wield is a nightmare.
Mm-hmm. And now Kayn, like we mentioned earlier, most JP units are elementally locked. Kayn is locked to either lightning in the base form or light element in the shift form. And it's kind of weird the way they did this, because as you can see here, the jump is non-elemental, but it auto-imbues you when you jump, and because you're in the air, you can't dispel that imbue. So it is locked to an element. I wonder why they did it this way instead of making the jump innately elemental. I'm not sure.
It is strange.
But 230x jump, if dual wielding, that's you can build him dual wield. It's a 460 effective jump modifier. If you're double hand, you're getting double the variance, so it's, again, double damage almost. And you'll see here, Kayn is really high. Now, this spreadsheet that I'm using, I didn't make the spreadsheet, I just updated it for variance. He built Kayn true dual wield, and you can do that with Kayn. It's harder to build, it's way harder to build. But sometimes it is worth doing just because his jump is one hit. And some Dark Visions are really squishy, and you'll hit the 10 billion damage cap no matter what. But if he's dual wielding, you're 2 hits, and you can break that 10 billion damage cap. So sometimes it's worth building true dual wield, but it's a lot easier to build him double hand, and it is worth it as long as you're not hitting the upper ceiling on damage.
There's one thing I want to mention with him is that some people may be looking through his kit and seeing that he gets some kind of a mod boost if he uses it on the first turn there for his Limit Burst.
His auto cast.
It's definitely not worth it, guys. It's the same thing like with Kuja back in the day, the 5-star Kuja. He gets the same thing, and no one ever used that either. His Limit Burst is not that amazing. It's okay, but you'd rather be jumping than using this.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion.
And also worth mentioning, as you can see over here, that Kayn is really, really high damage. It's a great thing. He's not premium. He is just a regular old unit, so he's going to cost the same as just about every other unit without having to go, to EX3 with the vision card and all that. He is just a plain, regularly priced unit, and he is this powerful, which is very cool. But I should mention, he does, at least on JP, use the old school style jump of 2 turns in the air. I know we kind of got spoiled with Sky, Noctis, and Ardent. All their jumps are 1 turn on global. This is the 2-turn jump, so it's like a longer setup, which can make buffing kind of tricky because you got to buff 2 turns in advance before your burst turn. So it does have some drawbacks. They might adjust it for global to make it a 1-turn like they did for Noctis and Ardent. I would think they probably won't.
That would be busted.
Yeah, I think they probably won't because Noctis and Ardent were good, but they weren't like meta when they came out or like top tier, so they needed a small bump. This guy's pretty good, so he's probably not going to get any buffs like lowering the jump cooldown. We don't know, but I would say probably not. And then let's look at banners here. So we had some more banners. Edge is like a breaker guy. He's kind of whatever. He's okay. Then Harv and Lefty are some more Season 4 units. I don't think these are anything special. What do you think, Deuce? Harv, Lefty, anything worth mentioning on them?
Nope.
Yeah, it's like just nah. And then for October, kind of recently on JP, we had a new Brave Exvius themed banner. Now these names, I just put these names in. Like I think all these units are technically like Reagan, the Second Coming of the Emperor, Axstar, Second Coming of the Emperor. I actually named them like for my personal use, like Breaker, Reagan, Breaker, because that's what they do. But yeah, this whole month of October has been all about a like side story of Season 4, which is bringing a bunch of new units and some power creep. One of them being Dark Rain. He's a mage. So before we start talking about like his kit and all, anything you want to say about Dark Rain, Deuce?
He's a polarizing figure, that's for sure, in terms of his appearance.
Oh, his appearance?
I've been getting a lot of comments. Yeah.
I like it. I think it looks good. I like it.
Some people don't like him because they think like he's in a certain situation or something, but I don't think the sprite really matters that much. It's the kit, guys.
All right, so Dark Rain is amazing. He is a premium unit. Keep that in mind. In premium units, you need EX3 for the vision card. Some of their power is locked to like a minimum of EX2, etc. But he is a good mage. And here is his STMR is a spear. He is a spear mage, and he imperils spears, so that's fine. I think it's a 30% imperil, or is it? Let's double check real quick. I don't remember. 25% spear imperil. Okay. And then his vision card. Now, his vision card is very similar to Tybus' vision card, but even better. It's a 130 base magic vision card with 100% LB damage and 50 static magic. The catch is these passive stats only apply to magical damage dealers. but that's from any series. And that's just about every mage in the game, including evokers like, Terra and all them, if you still want to use them. This vision card is amazing. And I would say the vision card is probably the number one reason to chase this guy if you're going to go for him. And then his materia is the focus ability. So people may be familiar with this from like VV and stuff like that, where you can focus and store your magic for a big burst. Well, this is a materia that gives anyone the focus ability they can cast. It does take 3 turns to stack up to maximum. Rain can multicast it, but regular units cannot. They have to stack it 1 time per turn. But it's, again, a really good TMR to put on any mage you want. And as far as his kit, you want to mention what his kit does?
He has 200% all killers, and you know how good that is, guys, with Louise.
Yes,
that's quite good. It helps build him up.
Mm-hmm. This is a passive that all of these units have in the Season 4 side story event. Like, all these units of October have this passive of just killers to everything. So 200% across the board. It makes him very.
I believe that Reagan has only 100.
Oh, does he?
Oops,
my bad.
I believe so.
Okay.
The non-premium ones have, I think, like 100, but then they have some additions, like they have like more Demon Killer or Beast Killer or something like that.
Okay.
For example.
Gotcha. Okay.
So he has 200% True Dual Wield, very nice. He has 600% Cat, very nice. So you already have a very good way of building him. The big thing is you would like to have either two of his STMR or at least one, and maybe like Grimlord Sakura's TMR. I don't know in the global version if is that two-handed.
The Grimlord's TMR, I'm almost certain that Reaver is a two-handed weapon. So yes, you couldn't dual wield that. As
That's
far
bad.
as other good magical spears, I think the only other good one is like that really old event spear from Four Winds Physalis 2 years ago. It's like 165 magic or something. It's kind of old at this point.
Yeah, you could probably just do 2 of his STMR. Keep in mind though that flat magic does not stack.
Mm-hmm.
It still gives some killers. It's good.
Mm-hmm. And then his limit burst is a very, very standard for premiums. It's a 350x dark magic LB. Now the downside is because he is an actual mage, you cannot imbue him. So he is 100% locked to dark element. There is no like mixing elements like you can do with Sephiroth, Auron, Tybus, etc. When they're off element, you can still mix in the right element. Rain is dark. End of story. All dark. But his damage is pretty good. Now right here, this is again something that people with the original version of the spreadsheet might be wondering, like on that sheet, Rain is listed really high because again, that sheet is using the global version of variance, where in JP, all the physical units got bumped up with the variance change. So in relation, Rain got lowered a little bit because all the physical units went up in JP. So this is where he ranks in JP compared to the other units. So he's still the number one mage, but not the number one in the game. Period. So what do you think about Dark Rain, Deus? Is he worth the chase as a unit? Is he worth chasing for the vision card and using it on someone else? How do you feel about Dark Rain?
The vision card. Vision card will be useful for years to come because it has 100% burst damage on it, and it also has a lot of magic and stuff on it. So if you're just looking for a top-notch vision card that'll help you cap something or get ahead in the competition, then definitely get that. As a unit, the 200% all killers is very nice. That's the main selling point, is the 200% all killers. The reason we pull him is for the vision card and also for the accessibility of just being able to be built for pretty much any situation, as long as they're not dark immune or huge dark resistances or something ridiculous like that. You can bring him to pretty much whatever you want.
Mm-hmm. And you actually took Dark Rain to some testing with the brand new unit in JP, Renoa, that just came out. You got Renoa and you've got Dark Rain, and you tested them both. So give us like a brief update on how that testing went. Rain versus Renoa.
So in testing in final, using Dark Rain's TMR to get a boost, I would say he did around 12 billion, and then Renoa did 14. So that's putting all 4 of her apocalypses, by the way, into the chain, but it's possible. So it's pretty hilarious that Renoa, a non-premium unit, is already stronger than Dark Rain on average. It's actually pretty funny, I think. And
It,
Renoa is quite good because she's not a premium unit, and you don't need EX3 out of 3 for her, for sure.
and it's also worth mentioning that, again, the damage cap. The final boss on Dark Visions, usually you're not going to have the damage cap, but there are some other bosses where the damage cap is a real thing, and Dark Rain has an upper ceiling of 10 billion, never going higher, as far as his LB goes. Renoa, like you said, is a quad caster, so she has no problems with the damage cap, same as like Graf and stuff. So yeah, that potential for scaling higher is there for the multi-hit units.
She's kind of ridiculous. Like, if you're looking for a mage to save, in my opinion, like if you are a whale or a dolphin and you want Dark Rain, but you also want Renoa, just go for Dark Rain and like maybe wait for the shard dungeon and get him an EX3 for the vision card. But the real prizes, I think, is Renoa, which is great for a lot of people because I think by the time Renoa comes out, I think a lot of people are going to be tired of the premium stuff. I think people already are tired of it, but I think it's just great that Renoa is not a premium unit, but she's this powerful. Just like Kayn, for example. Kayn is really good. He's not premium.
That's true. Also, just real quick, Deuce, what are your thoughts about the current global mage, Angela? Because Angela has insane modifiers, and people were doing like some brief math. Angela basically does Dark Rain's level of damage, but can be imbued with any element you want. So does that like lower Rain's value any, or are people still going to want Rain just to grab his vision card and his TMR and stick it on Angela?
I think that might be the case. Hear that, Gumi? You might need to debuff Dark Rain.
It's so crazy that like Angela came out this week and she is basically on a premium unit 3 months into the future's power level. It's crazy. It is so crazy.
She's like the evolved version of Ellie on the global version.
And then there's some more units that came out during that month. Reagan is like a breaker. He's a support unit that does Holy Imperils. Axstar was a breaker that does Dark Imperils. And then Fina was the unit that came out that month. She's like the upgraded version of Descendant Aerith, where it does Holy support. She has a field, etc. And then Nicole and Secura are mages. They're just DPS units, not supports. Is there anything you want to mention about any of these units, Deuce?
Sakura is pretty good because she can be comboed with a lot of other units. Nicole, not so much because he's basically stuck to Flood, and Flood sucks. So there's that. Sakura is quite nice because she has a lot of chaining options for other people. And the downside is that you'd really like to have a dupe. You can't bring dupes to Clash of Wills or Dark Visions, so I don't know what they were thinking with that, but she's good, but still not really needed.
And something else I'll mention is both Nicole and Shakira. I'm pretty sure that every single skill in their kit is AoE, which makes them incredibly hard to use in Dark Visions because of the AoE bug. And then the last unit we wanted to cover in this video is Knights of Grand Shelt. This, to me, seems like they're probably going to rename them in Global. It seems like a weird name for a unit, but in JP, they're called the Knights of Grand Shelt. They are, again, a premium unit. They are very similar to the others that are just LB finishers. They have a stack just like Sephiroth, Auron, and not Auron. Sephiroth, they have a stack. The SLB units don't have stacks. That's like the trade-off. They're SLB, no stacking, but you got to wait for the time. These are Brave Shifts, so we're going back to the like Sephiroth design. We had Auron and Dark Rain and Tybus. They were all SLB units. This is going back to the Brave Shift. I personally prefer Brave Shift. How about you, Deuce? Do you have
definitely 100%? Because number one, because they're more accessible to a lot of players. You don't need to go EX 3 out of 3 to make their damage go through the roof, but obviously you'd like to if you want to hit high damage numbers, but not needed. And it just allows you for more flexibility. Here's the best example for this unit. Since we talked about Typhus' S-Teamer, they'd like to have it. So what you do is you put that on their base form, you go ahead and use that, and then you can have an Entruster for him, and he'll have mad damage when he gets his max stack, because you can just entrust his LB, unlike SLB units.
Exactly. Yeah, you can bring like Shearer or any Thruster you want, and you can just pop out those LBs back to back to back. Whereas SLB units, you are hard locked to at maximum 1 per 3 turns for the SLB, and you can still use the base form LB or the non SLB on like Rain and all. But let's go back to Rain real quick. We can see the comparison. Rain's SLB 350, base or non-SLB 200. So it's almost double damage on the SLB. So while the base form, or I keep saying the base form, the base LB is still good, it's just nowhere near as good as the actual SLB. Now on the Knights of Grand Shelt, we've got their Brave Shift that you can use multiple times. Now real quick, I will mention before we get into this, it's a trance shift. Sephiroth is true Brave Shift. He can be any form, any turn you want. This one is a trance. It's a little bit more limited than Sephiroth, but more, easier to use than Super Limit Burst, I feel at least. But it's a 4-turn cooldown for both ways. So 4 turns in, 4 turns out, if you're going for that route. But yeah, so the SLB, or the, I keep mixing these up. So the Brave Shifted LB, it's a 1 stack, just like Sephiroth and Tifa. So after you use it once, then it's at max power. But it's at 370. So they've actually, for the first time ever, finally gone past that 350 base LB, which is real nice. Now, they are light locked. They're a light element locked. They do have an element lock, so slight downside. They are physical, so they can be imbued. They're great swords with a 30% great sword in peril. So again, we're power creeping a little bit. They're bringing the 30% in peril versus like 25% from all the previous ones. So that's nice.
And it's funny to see the 30% in perils when in the Chinese versions getting that like on average on all their units basically, and sometimes 35%. And also the imperils are about the same on the CN versions when they get buffed. It's kind of funny to see that.
I know, it's crazy. You post those comparisons on Reddit and all on your YouTube channel of like the newest buffs on the Chinese version. Every time I read them, I'm like, wow, they are just going nuts with power creep. But it does seem nice.
And one thing I'd like to bring your attention to is that hit count, too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. A 2 hit count.
So this literally power creeps Sephiroth in every single way possible because Sephiroth only hits once. This guy hits twice if you can fit it in the chain. And it's pretty easy. This one first, obviously done on purpose, is very smooth to finish with. So you won't have any problems with that. So he'll hit huge numbers. That's ridiculous numbers.
Mm-hmm. It is so painful for me to agree with you that he does power creep Sephiroth. I feel like Auron and Tybus, they're great units and all, but I don't feel they're great enough to chase them if you already have Sephiroth, whereas this one, I feel like this is the first like true and absolute power creep. They are just better in pretty much every possible way. And just like the Dark Rain, he's got 200% innate killer to everything. This dude is so easy to build. It's wonderful. He's actually got...
Just by existing, he has several 300% killers with his STMR equipped.
Mm-hmm. And his STMR up here is a great sword, 220 attack power, again, just creeping all over the place. Sephiroth's 180. Auron is using the old Auron's Chronicle. I think it's 180 at max. I forget the exact amount. But yeah, this guy goes to 220. And as you can see here, the variance, the variance is updated in JP, so it's a 1.5 variance. Great. Killers on it. Attack power for him only, though. And then the Vision card. Did we talk about the Vision card yet?
No, we didn't.
I don't think we did. Yeah, okay. So this one is, again, similar to Typhus, but this time, instead of being locked to Brave Exvius male units, this is every single physical unit in the game. As long as they have the physical DPS tag, they can use this STMR at full power. It's a 130 base attack, 500 flat, 100 LB, 80% attack, and all of that works, including the flat attack, on every single physical attacker in the game. This is a crazy good Vision card. Very nice. And then TMR is, it's nice. It's like kind of whatever.
You would think that it would be not that great, but actually sometimes it comes down to needing those At one time, I actually needed that. It's funny enough, I actually needed their TMR.
Oh, nice. Out of curiosity, dude, I didn't actually test this. If you're dual wielding a great sword and a katana, does that give you 150 killers? I should have tested this. I didn't test it.
Oh, I didn't actually test that.
I think it probably would, based on the way it works. I think the passives activate per weapon type, but I don't know for sure. But this is potentially a 150 killer materia for both. So that's really cool. And as far as DPS goes, they are not on the sheet. I did kind of like rig it and hijack a unit. So I'm going to go down here and show you based on just updating. I took Golden Riser and I just updated him. Let's put him to 1.5 variance. And I plugged in all of Knights of Grand Shelt's numbers. So as you see here, 370 XLB, 220 weapon. I evened out the logarithmic formula because that's removed in the JP server. His vision card. So basically, I put in all of Knights of Grand Shelt's numbers just so we can see a comparison. And as you can see here, that puts, it says Golden Riser, but this would be Knights of Grand Shelt. Now, it doesn't seem like they're a huge power creep because they're only slightly above Typhus and all them. But this is, again, not taking into effect that they gear like brain dead easy, and most bosses these days are dual race. They will always be able to cap every single killer against every single race and cap every stat, whereas someone like Sephiroth or Auron or Tybus are going to really struggle to cap dual race bosses that they aren't like naturally aligned against. Like Sephiroth can easily cap a dual undead boss, but like a fairy aquatic boss, Sephiroth is going to have real troubles capping that. Knights of Grand Shelt won't. They're gonna cap it easy.
Yeah.
And then also these numbers, keep in mind, these numbers are not assuming like the really specialized external support. Like for example, if we gave Tyvus's STMR to Knights of Grand Shelt, let's real quick go and adjust the number. It would be a 400x modifier because it adds 30. That would then boost, if they have Tybus's STMR, I guess it wasn't that big of a boost, but it's still a boost. They're now 3 trillion higher than Tybus, etc. So, yeah. So this unit is Knights of Grand Shelt worth a chase, Deuce? Are they worth the premium tag if they are going to be expensive?
I would say they are worth the premium tag. Number one, because their Brave Shift finally Brave Shift's coming back, and number two, their vision card will be useful for a very long time. Even if something comes out where it's like a little bit more attack or a little bit more of this or that, it's still amazing because all those passes that it gives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this vision card is crazy good. I love it. And that's actually part of the reason I chased them on the JP server, is because that vision card is going to be, even after this unit is power crept, I feel like this vision card is going to live on for quite a while. So, very nice. And that basically brings us to the end of, or the current point in JP, so we don't really have much of a crystal ball past this point. Is there anything else you wanted to mention from these units, dudes? We didn't really talk too much about the Neo Visions Awakening. Like, Titus is a really great Neo Visions Awakening, and he's free from the event. Squall turned out to be really good as well from the current event.
I showed off SPT just a lot on my channel, so I think most people kind of know about him by now, and there's a lot of hype about him. He is worth the hype, because if you get him to EX3, and I'm pretty sure most people can because he's an old unit, and if you can't get him to EX3, go ahead and do that with Omni Prisms or UOCing more of him or something like that. But he gets 600% cap at EX2, and he gets more stats at EX3, which is definitely worth it. And his SLB is non-elemental, so he's going to be hitting pretty hard, I think.
Mm-hmm. Definitely worth it. Okay.
Jet is disappointing. Don't even talk about him.
Oh, he is. I know.
Galoof is very good. He has a lot of good things about him. The only problem with him is his Little Burst. Brave Shift's Little Burst is hard to chain with because it's like a weird frames.
Yeah, it's like absolute mirror of equity, but it's got that like a weird offset where you can't just spark chain it with a regular chainer. You gotta like slightly delay it. It's a big headache. It's doable, but it's a headache.
Faye is pretty good because he has 130% Dark Imperil. I used him for that a few times, and his LB and his Brave Shift Horn was pretty decent. I think on the spreadsheet he was respectably high for a Neovision Awakening unit. I'd say it's respectable.
Oh yeah, he's fake. Yeah, he's actually pretty good right here. 20 trillion compared to the other units. Not bad. he actually beats id, which is like, it's so weird. Id, why do they do id bad? It kills me.
And who else? Conte, like I mentioned, very, very powerful flare magic damage dealer. So if you're looking for someone, if you've been missing out on the pure magic finisher that's using actual magic, Conte is definitely very good. Squall, alright, he's alright. If you already have Tybus, it's not really anything super special, in my opinion, even though he is Squall. So if you like Squall and you don't like Tybus, I guess you'd use Squall. Zell, I didn't even look at him.
Same as me. Yeah, he got that's the 3-star Zell, or is he 4-star? Anyway, it's a 3 or 4-star. Oh, it's a 4-star. Okay, so it's a 4-star Awakening. And yeah, like I had just pulled Knight to Grand Shelt. I'm like, there's no way Squall or Zell is going to interest me when I just pulled Knight to Grand Shelt. So it's like I didn't even look at him either. I couldn't tell you.
Snow White and Alice are incredibly disappointing, like a complete waste of time to even look at them.
Oh yeah,
their damage is so pathetically bad for like they didn't even try. They didn't even bother trying.
Mm-hmm. That's a collab that Global's probably going to skip anyway. The Sinnoh Alice collaboration. We're probably not going to get. We might, but we probably won't. If we do, I would expect Global to fix these units, or at least I would hope they do. Oh my God, please fix them if we get them. But okay, I think that's mostly it for covering the units. So again, I'm going to link Deuce's channel in the description. He's got lots of videos on these units from the JP server as well. You can check that out if you're interested. So thanks again, Deuce, for joining me.
Hashtag pull Renoa.
Renoa does seem decent. All right, so I will see you guys next time.